I received a phone call yesterday morning from a rather excited Lincoln Town Council member who accused me, first of all, as grandstanding, attention seeking. Apparently, he must have watched my Friday video. I'll reply to that in a minute. The second thing this Lincoln Town Council member told me I need to do is to get over Rick Bronson's quote, because he has. No, Mr. Lincoln Town Council member, and to you, the town council at large, no. I'm not over Rick Bronson's quote. I didn't take his quote out of context, like Mr. Bronson alleging. In fact, for those of you who are listening to this video, I'm going to go ahead and play Rick Bronson's response to my first video when he took to the airways of Rick Tyler and George Hale VOM show. So you guys can hear for yourselves what he said.
GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team, your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out.
Well, that's one of the problems when you have something happen like this. Everybody points fingers.
Well, why?
Right.
Why?
Well, can we go back to that?
C&H ambulance responded.
Well, yes, but can we go back to the point that you're making, Rick? Why are arrows being fired at Lincoln?
We're a little larger. There is a newspaper, social media. I mean, we're being abused nicely on social media.
Yeah, I would imagine. That doesn't shock me at all.
I watched the video, and Rick, do you regret some of the comments that you allegedly made to Benjamin that gave fodder for those who are firing the arrows?
I don't think so. I think it's possible that some of what I've said has been misunderstood. That's relatively common. But no, I don't have anything in particular I want to take back. Maybe you've got something you'd like to cite.
No, I watched the video where the guy, I don't even know who he is, but he had some strong
comments. Nor do I know who he is, but I've seen it.
Yeah, and his comments about we had to let a couple of houses burn down in order to get their attention and to make.
Well, see, that is a comment that is accurate, but misplaced. The town of Wynn hit a point, and Wynn physically abuts Lincoln, whereas McGuahawk does not.
Yeah.
And Wynn decided they didn't want to pay for fire services. We used to say in New England, mutual aid, one helps the other. Well, it's not mutual aid when only one has a service and the other has none. And that was the case with Wynn. They had no fire department, and Lincoln was going whenever there was a need. We finally told them this can't go on. There is a formula that the town of Lincoln uses with the town of Chester, and Chester has no fire department. Lincoln treats it as if it's part of Lincoln, and we deal with it. And we were willing to do the same with Wynn, but they were unwilling to pay. Mm-hmm. One of the select persons in Wynn called me, and she said, we're going to have to burn down 2 or 3 houses. Then we'll be back to you. And that's exactly what's happened.
Someone in Wynn said that to you?
Yes, one of the select persons, and it's exactly what happened.
Whereas the guy that's spouting off on social media accredited that comment to you.
Well, hooray for him.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us an opportunity to get to the bottom of that, Rick.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, Rick Bronson right there, a typical politician, never really gave Rick Tyler an answer. He kind of just left it out there that I'm taking a quote out of context and attributing it to Rick Bronson. Well, Rick Bronson, you're a freaking liar. Because this is where I got it from. I did not make this up. I didn't pull this out of my head. This was in the Lincoln News. This is a quote, Mr. Bronson, that you gave the Lincoln News. I'm going to read the quote again. This is on this is page 3 of the January 16th issue of the Lincoln News. Bronson recounted as an example a time when Wynn stopped contracting for services with Lincoln, saying, quote, this is a quote from Rick Bronson, "We let a few houses in Wynn burn down before they came around," end quote. Mr. Bronson, that quote that you gave the Lincoln News would not make sense if it was a Wynn Select person who said it. These damn politicians, they lie back and forth and twist. And Rick Bronson, man, he's just as good as a politician as the rest of them. Now, I've been told by a few different town officials, Lincoln and Wynn, the actual quote from the town of Wynn to Lincoln was, "We'd let all the houses burn down." So Rick Bronson's trying to cover his ass. As you noticed, he didn't really come out and say that I took it out of context. He just kind of let Rick and George go along with the fact that, well, yeah, whatever. Another thing I find interesting with this little segment of this is Rick Tyler gave him an opportunity to clarify what he said. And Rick Bronson chose not to. Can't make this stuff up. But Rick Bronson knows he stepped in it, and stepped in it big time. He's trying to walk it back without actually walking it back. And he's lying both ways. So, again, Rick Bronson. And if you got any character left in you, just step down. Second, the Lincoln News reporter, Ben, who's done kudos in reporting this story, even asked Mr. Bronson if he wanted to clarify his quote, to which he said, no, do with it what you want. I'm going to repeat what I said in my video on Friday. I do not hold Rick Bronson responsible for Miss Hunter's death, nor, contrary to what this Lincoln Town Council member who called me yesterday accuses me, I do not blame the town of Lincoln. I do have an issue that Lincoln refused to answer the call. And I do have an issue with Rick Bronson. This is Rick Bronson who said this, not a Wynn Select person. I'm not disagreeing that at some point the town of Wynn may have said this to the town of Lincoln and to Rick Bronson. I'm not arguing against that either. But the quote in the Lincoln News 3 weeks ago was not Rick Bronson repeating a quote from the town of Wynn. Anyone who has a second or a third grade education can read that quote. We let a few houses burn down, and then they came around to our way of thinking. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but I will put the quote in the video right here so you can read it again for yourself. That's not a quote that the town of Wynn would say to Lincoln. That is Rick Bronson telling the Lincoln News that he had to teach the town of Wynn a lesson after a few houses burnt down. Well, congratulations, Mr. Bronson. You just signed a contract with McCall. It didn't take 2 houses burning down. It just took one person's life. Now, as far as this allegation of attention seeking, I haven't even put this story to my national audience. And I've worked on stories in the last 5 years that have gotten me much more fame and fortune than what this story here in Lincoln. No, I'm not looking for fame and fortune and attention seeking. Let me explain, Mr. Town Councilor and the Town Council. But one of the jobs that journalists serve the public is that we keep elected officials accountable to the voters. So this makes me wonder now. If the Lincoln Town Council are squealing like pigs because of my coverage and Ben's coverage of this EMS policy, just what the hell are they hiding else from us, Lincoln residents? What other stuff is going on behind closed doors that they don't want brought to the light of day? I don't understand this character assassination that, I've read it from the Howland Fire Department saying it about Ben from the Lincoln News. He's just attention seeking. Now I'm being accused of attention seeking. No. So I'm going to ask Lincoln Town Council, why are you so scared of transparency? Now, maybe this town council member who called me yesterday is right. Maybe I am crazy. Maybe, whatever. I'd like to pose a couple of questions to you, Lincoln residents. Are you happy with your town government? Are you happy with your current level of property taxes? Are you happy with your town government and your town manager having this policy that we don't answer EMS calls unless it's a neighboring town with a contract? I'm not happy. As a town, like I've been saying from my first video, we can do better. It's not an either or. Of course, another thing that was thrown at my face yesterday, which isn't new. I've had a couple of others say the same thing. Well, you just want free EMS service to everyone. Nope. Didn't say that either. What I'm saying is it's not an either or proposition. We can help our neighbors. We can help people in need. And then we can get the bill paid after the fact. So I'm curious, as Lincoln residents and voters, what do you think about this? Are you happy with your town government? Are you happy with this EMS policy? Because I've had a lot of you reach out to me in person, text messages, direct messages, and the feedback that I'm getting is 99% of you are not happy. Talk to you soon.